Yo, what's really good with y'all niggas? It's your boy, it's Langston coming at y'all with another video. Alright, this is gonna be part two to a video I made like about a year ago. Being quiet and handsome in the workplace, right? Cause being attractive, right? Being handsome, right? It's a double-edged sword, my nigga, right? It got its pros and it has its cons, right? The pros are, most of the time, like you're a girl's first pick, right? They're gonna naturally be intrigued by you, literally just because of your physical appearance and the way you carry yourself, the way you project your voice into the room and shit. You feel me? And it's a double-edged sword, right? Because if you're not being friendly and shit, right? If you're not smiling in people's faces and shit, right? People, they gonna have a problem with you, right? They gonna think that you arrogant. They just gonna have like, not, they could just know, they could just dead ass, right, know nothing about you and just attach a bunch of negative connotations to you, right? For example, right, it's not only with men, right? It happens with women too, right? When niggas, I remember I was working in the store one time, right? The place I work at currently, right? It's only temporary, right? I'm just currently working there, right? I'm gonna get the fuck out of there soon, bro. I ain't gonna lie, but and there was this woman that walked in. She was very attractive, right? She was attractive to the point where that's the first thing you're gonna think about her when you see her, right? And all she did was walk in, pay for her food, and walk out, right? And then, nigga, I looked at bro, right? That paid for her. So I looked at him like yeah, like she was kind of like that. And of course, he had to say something negative about her, right? So his ego could stay alive. So he could feel good about not being with her. That's what people do when they don't really like know people that are attractive, right? They just attach a bunch of negative connotations. He was just like, oh, I've met girls like her and shit. He was like, yeah, those type of girls, they be doing this, they be doing the nigga, you don't know anything about her, right? All she did was walk in the store and pay for her food, right? That's the type of shit that you deal with, right? When you're attractive, that's the type of shit you deal with. Niggas are they gonna dead ass know nothing about you. They gonna judge you based off the way you look and the way you carry yourself. That's just how human beings are, man. But I gotten better with this shit. I'm doing a better job at surviving in the workplace while being, attractive, right? You just really gotta low key just be like a people's pleaser. Right, like don't let motherfuckers run over you and shit, right? Set boundaries and shit. But just don't give these motherfuckers a reason to talk about you, right? When it comes to being attractive, right? You could be doing the best job, you could be the best worker, right? But if you're not smiling in these people's faces, you're not talking about what you do outside of work, they just gonna look at you as a threat, right? You're a threat to these men, of course, right? Because you're all the girls' first pick. Right, the woman finds you very attractive, right? And you're a threat to the women, right? Because, they find you attractive, but because you're not interacting with them, because you're not approaching them, because you're not talking to them, right? They feel like that their ego is dying, right? So for these women, right? These women, they talk a lot of shit, right? It doesn't matter how good she looks, right? Her what like what I'm trying to say, right? Basically it don't matter like what type of woman she is, big, skinny, short, tall, fat, they gonna have an ego, right? And if they get around a man that they're attracted to, right, for their ego to stay alive, that man gotta go up to them, talk about what he does outside of work, smile in their fucking faces, be authentic, be genuine, be easy to read and shit. Right? That's just how that shit goes, bro. You feel me? That's how it goes when it comes to talking to women and shit, bro. Or at least coexisting with women in the workplace, right? You just gotta you gotta just do what you do, right? You gotta interact with them and shit, right? Because if not, right, if they feel like their ego is dying, right, they're gonna talk about you and shit. You're most likely gonna get fired. They're gonna at least try to get you fired and shit, right? They gonna, what you call it, they gonna get with the men, right? They gonna talk about you with the men that already look at you as competition, right? Because these niggas look at you as competition, right? They couldn't wait to hear something bad about you, man. Man, these niggas couldn't wait to hear something bad about you. right? I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck what type of conversations you had with these niggas, right? What type of deep talks, you know, how long you known these niggas, how many years, right? If these niggas look at you as competition, right? They look at you as a threat, right? When a human being looks at you as a threat, right? Nigga, they're actively thinking about doing harm to you, right? These motherfuckers don't like you. They don't like you. Like, it don't matter how, like I said, bro, it don't matter how many years you know the nigga, but if the nigga looks at you as a threat, bro, he looks at you as a threat. He don't want to be your fucking friend, right? He wants to create a dynamic. He looks at the dynamic like this, right? That nigga wants to create a dynamic where it's not like this, but it's like this, right? So, you know, they gonna try and get you fired from your job. They gonna try and get dumbass reactions out of you. They gonna try and, you know, motherfucking, they gonna create like negative, false narratives about you, right? You know, these motherfuckers, they just couldn't wait to hear something bad about you, to the point, right, where they got to create the false narrative themselves, right? Because you quiet, right? It's easy to create a narrative about someone you know nothing about, right? Now, to avoid this shit, right, recently, you know, of course, I've been doing a better job with this shit. I haven't been a part of no hostile work environments recently. You know, I get along with people well. You know, I just, you know, I just started opening my fucking mouth and just started talking to people and shit, right? I started, you know, laughing at their fucking jokes that's not funny, you know, ha 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 ha, you know, laugh at their jokes that's not funny just so they can leave me the fuck alone, right? You know, I can tell when a woman wants to be approached, right? So I just be approaching women at work, even women that I literally don't find attractive. I just still approach them so I can just do my fucking job and go home, right? Because, you know, God gave you these looks, right? The Creator gave you these looks not for no reason. It's just the Creator gave you these looks, right, to make other people feel better. It's specific. If you're a man, specifically women, just to make women feel better. As long as you making these women feel better, bro, you'll be fine at these jobs, bro. You'll be fine, right? Let's say you're working with straight dudes. All right, then then you can be quiet and shit, right? Then there's no competition. There's nobody really looks at you as a threat, right? You know, just be like, hey, what's up, man? And then you just do your job, right? But you working with women, bro, nigga, you gotta talk, bro. You gotta talk, right? Or the women and men, they gonna feel like their ego is fucking dying, right? So just fucking talk, right? Right? So, you know, going to work, minding your business, doing your job, right? Like I said earlier in the video, people have a problem with that, right? So just, like I said, what I've been doing, right, you know, especially like the summer job I was working, right? I was approaching women I don't give a fuck about, right? I was just, you know, I was smiling in their faces, you know, being friendly and shit, right? You know, it's just like, I'm the type of person, like, I'm really the type of person. The reason why I was just in so many hostile work environments, the reason why people wasn't fucking with me, right? Because of the way I was brought up, right? The way I was brought up, you know, I had social anxieties and shit. I was, like, afraid of rejection and shit. I didn't really socialize and shit. I didn't know what tonality to use, right? Because I wasn't used to socializing and shit, right? All that shit catches up to you as an adult, right? All that shit catches up to you as an adult, right? And I had to learn all that shit the hardest fucking way possible. Oh my God, I had to learn that shit the hardest way possible. But now, you know, I learned, right? I learned, and I'm still young and shit. I still got a good head on my shoulders, right? And I know how to coexist with these women and shit, right? You know, you just gotta make them feel better, right? Right? I used to just be really like egotistical in a sense, right? But like, if a woman wasn't making me feel better, I just wasn't gonna talk to her, right? Let's say I'll be intimate with a woman at work, right? If she says some shit I ain't like, if she did some shit I ain't like, I just stop fucking with her, right? And that's perfectly fine. I can do that shit, right? Right? But as a man, right, if you can tell that your silence is bothering a woman, right, and you happen to work with a woman, bro, they gonna take the woman's side. They gonna get you out of there, and she gonna be able to stay there and work there, right? So if I can go back in time, right, all those women I used to ignore, if I go back in time, bro, I'll just fucking talk to them, right? Right? Nigga, let's say, like, you know, you're just not really the type of dude like me. I'm not the type of dude. I don't really like to chase women. I don't really care about pussy, right? I'm attracted to women, of course, but, like, I really care about, like, strong emotional connections. If I feel like I don't have a strong emotional connection with you, I don't give a fuck how fat that ass is. I don't give a fuck how good she looks. If I don't have a strong emotional connection with the woman, I'm just gonna act like she don't exist, right? But nigga, you just can't do that, bro. You just can't do that. Like, I used to just ignore women, right? And then like, you know, I could tell that my silence was bothering them, and I just would do nothing about it. If I can go back in time, bro, I'll just talk to them, right? Just for the sole purpose, right? So I can just keep my money, right? You know, I'll just feed into their delusions, right? I would just feed into their fucking egos, right? I'll just, you know, make it seem like I fuck with them, that I'm crazy over them, and that when in actuality I'm really not. You know, I'll just do that shit, right? Anyways, I don't really got too much else to say. I love y'all niggas, right? You know, if you handsome and quiet at work, you know, you gotta break out of your shell, right? You gotta just start talking to people and just start, especially women, just start talking to them and shit, right? Break out of your motherfucking shell, my nigga, right? Smile in their faces, ha ha ha, you know, laugh at their jokes that's not fucking funny, right? You know, talk about what you do outside of work and shit. You know, create a universal version of yourself, right? That everybody can get along with. You know, until you can, you know, you can work your way out of these bullshit ass jobs, right? you get out of these bullshit ass jobs, right? By beating them, right? You beat them, right? By creating a version of yourself, right? That don't really belong there, right? But just act as though, you know, that you that nigga. You just gotta be confident, right? You have to be confident, or they finna get your ass out of there. Anyways, I don't really got too much else to say. It's Langston, I'm out.